Hey mate, before you enjoy today's episode, I wanted to take a moment to talk to you about the free 14-day transformation that we are currently running inside of the Unbreakable Man team. Now, if you're a man on the Gold Coast who's serious about improving his physical and mental health, building his self-confidence, and you want to become a part of a team of motivated and like-minded men, then this is the best chance that you are going to get. So as part of the 14-day transformation, you're going to get a personalized meal plan and a recipe cookbook to help you get your diet under control. You're going to be training with myself and the Unbreakable Man team for 2 whole weeks, and I'll be there by your side, helping you overcome any of the challenges that you will face along the way. If that sounds good, then get in touch with me by emailing me at mitch@unbreakableman.com.au. You can find all of my contact details on the website, which is just www.unbreakableman.com.au. Or you can message me on social media. Instagram is unbreakableman_challenge, and Facebook is just Unbreakable Man. That sounds good to you? Hit me up. I hope to hear from you soon. Back to the episode. Hey brother, Coach Mitch here, and welcome to today's episode of the Unbreakable Man podcast. Now, in today's episode, I wanted to share with you the experience that I had with 6 other Unbreakable men on the weekend just gone, which was the 7th till the 9th of June. We climbed Mt Barney, which is the tallest mountain in South East Queensland. It's 1,350 meters of elevation, and it was a 10-hour round trip. Now, this is in an absolutely beautiful part of the world. If you're a man on the Gold Coast, you should really go and spend a bit of time out in the scenic rim, which is about an hour and a half west of the Gold Coast, just past Bow Desert and kind of through Boonah. It's an absolutely spectacular place. The mountain range is amazing. There's lots of beautiful lakes and all that sort of stuff around there. And it's a bit of a playground for someone like myself and the Unbreakable Man team that really love the outdoors. But Mt Barney is one of the kind of crown jewels of the Unbreakable Man calendar each year. We did our very first climb of this mountain last August, and it was so successful and everyone had such a good time that this year we've actually planned 2 events to climb this thing. And one of them we just had, and the next one is in August, and both of these events are completely and utterly booked out because everyone wants to see what the world looks like from the top of the tallest mountain in Southeast Queensland. And there's a lot of places where it's absolutely spectacular. I'll put in a few shots of the event throughout this episode so you can get a bit of an idea of it if you're watching this on YouTube. Actually, no, if you're watching this on Spotify, you'll see the video too. So, it's a weekend-long event, kind of like the retreat, except it's all just focused around this one experience. And just so you know, the whole reason why we do this, it's not just about having an epic adventure, but it's about challenging ourselves, because it's a real challenge. Like I said, this is a 10-hour round journey, so we're out all day. And the really challenging part of it is there's a few different ways you can get to the top of Mt Barney, but one of those ways is called Logan's Ridge, and it's by far and away the most intense route to the top. You don't need ropes, but we take some with us just in case. You are literally scrambling and climbing the whole way up this thing. And again, I'll put some shots in there so you can see what I'm talking about. And you definitely don't want to lose your footing, because, I mean, especially some of the extra little bits that I do when I go up there, you know, your life is kind of in your hands, and it's very rare in this day and age for us to be in a situation where that's the case. You know, we live in a very safe world. We live in a very secure world, which is great. I'm not bagging that at all. That's fantastic. However, I think that all the safety that we have around us kind of takes something away as well. It sort of takes that element of feeling alive away from us a little bit as well, in the fact that, you know, we don't have to overcome as much. We don't have to deal with as much adversity. And I think that whilst that's really good for, you know, people surviving, obviously, which is awesome, it also, I think, stops us from developing the skills and the tools, both physically and mentally, to be able to get ourselves out of tight spots in our lives, whether those spots are physical or whether they are emotional or personal things. And so one of the reasons why we do this challenge is not just for the adventure, it's not just for the epic views and the camaraderie and the laughs that we have as a group of dudes going up there. It's also for that internal personal challenge and proving to ourselves that, hey, this is tough and this is scary, but that doesn't mean you can't do it. Because there's going to be a lot of things in our lives between where we are right now and where we're trying to get to, where we have to deal with something that's both tough and scary. And most people are not where they want to be because they haven't confronted that difficult, scary thing. And when we do things like Mt Barney's and retreats and some of the Evo adventures that we do, it's practice. We're doing the reps. It's just like we're in the gym lifting weights and building our muscles, except the muscle that we're building is our resilience, our mental strength. And the only way that we can build that muscle is by flexing it, is by actually using it. So that's one of the main reasons why we do this event. And don't get me wrong, like I said, it is certainly a challenge. It's definitely a bit hairy, but it is also a lot of fun. It's heaps of fun. We get there on a Friday afternoon, everyone finishes work, and you get there, your tent's ready for you, you put your stuff in your tent, and you just get your camp chair out, park yourself around the campfire, we're telling stories all night, having a great time. Up at the crack of dawn the next day, in fact, before the sun even comes up, and we're straight out to the car park to meet our professional guides. So I always hire 2 professional guides to take us up to the top, and that's just to mitigate the safety risks. We have 2 sets of professional eyes making sure that everything that we're doing is within the boundaries of what is safe, and we make sure that everyone gets to the top safely. So it's my job to ultimately remove that real risk, and therefore the only risk that we're really dealing with is our own internal risk clock, our own internal riskometer, and how we're able to overcome that when it's a bit too sensitive, which is most people in our world today, because we're not used to dealing with risk, or we try to avoid that as much as possible, which again makes sense. However, life is risky. There's just nothing you can do about that. It's an integral part of our experience of life, and we have to be able to deal with risk and manage it well, and manage our emotional reaction to risk too. So when we get to that car park, we start the hike about 6:30, and it's from that car park to the top of the mountain, it's about 5.5 hours. And it's only about 6.5 kilometers from the car park to the top. But like I said, the second 3 of those 6 kilometers is all scrambling. And it's hands on the rocks, and there's definitely lots of places where you don't want to fall down. But that is also the most fun part for me. I love that sort of stuff, and to the point where I'm picking out alternative, more challenging routes up the rock faces than perhaps the guides necessarily want me to take. However, they trust me, which is good. So it gives me the opportunity to play a little bit, and again, take those calculated risks. However, probably the main story that I really want to tell in regards to the event that we had on the weekend was one of the men specifically who came with us. His name is Ranjit, and if you've been watching this podcast for any length of time, then you can actually go and see an episode that I did with Ranjit last year after his Kokoda challenge, which is a 96-kilometer walk through the hinterland of the Gold Coast. I did a sit down with him about that last year. However, he came with us for the Mt Barney event over the weekend, and this is so far outside of his comfort zone, it's not funny. He hates heights, and I've known this fella for 8-9 years. He's
was a client initially, and now he's a really close personal friend, and also he leads in some of the events that we do as well. I love this man to bits, and it's been amazing watching his growth over the years. I remember a time where we were at Kangaroo Point in Brisbane, and he was all hooked up, ready to do an abseil off a 20-meter cliff. And he's literally dry retching at the top of this cliff with the nerves and anxiety that he's feeling. And it's like, you feel for the guy when he's in those moments, but it's always so special when, despite how he's feeling, he still manages to harness up and do the challenge. In that case, the abseil, and he got all the way to the bottom. And I've seen him do abseils multiple times since. And every time, you get a bit nervous, and I wouldn't say it's easy for him. However, he can do it. And I've got to give so much respect and love to this man for every single time he's felt like that, and he's still taking the steps. He really puts his faith in my hands and in the hands of some of the other leaders in the group to make sure that we help him achieve the goal. And it was no different this weekend. We helped him achieve the goal. But anyway, for 4.5, 5 hours, this poor fella is just anxiety central. Like he's feeling all the emotions, and on several occasions on the way up, we had to harness him up and rope him up, and he didn't really need it. He could do the moves himself, but it was more just having that safety net and that knowledge that even if he slipped, he was going to be okay. I totally understand that. It was great to be able to take that risk factor away from him so that he could just make the moves, right? And that's what all this is about. Like, Ranj got to the top of the tallest mountain in South East Queensland on the most challenging route to the top. And this guy is shit scared of heights. And what I think of when I see someone do that is I'm so inspired, because there's so many times in my life where I really don't want to do something, even though I know that it's going to be a positive thing for me. I know that it's only going to help assist me in my growth as a man, and as a leader, and as a future father, and as a partner, and all that sort of stuff. And it'll be when I'm in those moments, I'll be thinking about men like Ranj and what he was able to push himself through on challenges like Mt Barney. So it's truly inspiring seeing stuff like that. And that's where the value of getting outside of your comfort zone really comes into play. That is the value. You now have evidence in your life that you are capable of much more than you thought you were capable of. You now have evidence. Like, you can't deny the fact that you've gotten to the top of this mountain, because you know what it looks like. You've been through that. You can't deny the fact that you can take action despite being scared, because you've already done that multiple times when you put yourself in these situations. You can't deny the fact that even though this is uncomfortable, on the other side of it, you're going to be okay. And you know it. You know it now because you've had enough experience. You've practiced this enough to know what's going to happen after the challenge is over. Whether you win or lose is not even the most important thing. It's just that you've attempted. It's that you've tried. It's that you've turned something that was an unknown and you've made it known. You've shone a light on it, and now you're aware of what that thing truly is, and what you can do about it, and what you can't do about it as well. An example of that in my own life is I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and it's quite nerve-wracking to compete in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And probably the most nerve-wracking part of it is that you're there all day, like 6 hours, for potentially 5 minutes of actual fight time. And once you actually start the fight, it's not too bad. But it's the lead up to it where all the nerves and anxiety is. And once you're actually starting the bout, you just get into it. And when you are in that situation, when I'm in that situation, that is a great opportunity for me to practice becoming comfortable in that uncomfortable situation. And knowing that on the other side of this fight, or this series of fights, I'm literally just going to go home and hang out with my girlfriend. and everything's going to be fine. It will be over. It will be done. And whether I win or lose, the main thing is that I've had the experience. The main thing is that I've turned something that was unknown, aka how am I going to do in this fight, into something that's known. Okay, this is what I need to work on. Great, I won. Either way, I've made something that was scary and unknown, and I've shone a light on it. And from doing that, you remove anxiety from your life. You remove insecurity from your life because you already know. You already know what's ahead of you. You're not afraid of it anymore. But it's all the unknowns in our lives that hold us back, fellas, because that's where all of the fear is. Ranj didn't know if he could get up all of those climbs that we did on Saturday. He didn't know. Now he knows. He's had that experience. He can't deny that to himself. It's already there. He can already see it in his own mind. He's been there. It's on video. And it makes him a better person. It makes him a stronger father. It makes him a better role model for his kids. It makes him a better leader for his friends and his family, because now when they're afraid of something and they don't know how to take the next step, he knows what to say to them because he's already had to say it to himself. He's already had to get himself through that same emotion. So one last thing I'm going to finish off with, and perhaps a good way to conceptualize the value of doing these sorts of things in your life consistently, is a concept from the David Goggins book, Can't Hurt Me. So you might not know who David Goggins is. He's an ex-Navy SEAL, and he's just basically become like the toughest guy on the planet sort of persona. And I don't know if he actually is or not, but he's definitely up there, right? This guy eats pain for breakfast and likes doing 200-mile runs and does marathons with stress fractures all through his shins and stuff like that. I'm not saying he's the smartest cat in the world, but you definitely can't deny this fella is resilient, both physically and mentally. And the concept from his book was about having cookies in your cookie jar. And the cookie represents the past challenge that you've overcome. So, for example, Mt Barney is a cookie in Ranj's cookie jar. And the abseiling at Kangaroo Point is another cookie in Ranj's cookie jar. And whenever Ranj is about to do something else that he's afraid of, something else that is outside of his comfort zone or is unknown to him right now, he can reach into his cookie jar and grab a cookie to remind him of what he's done before, to remind him of the kind of man that he is. And we want to have as many cookies in our cookie jar as possible, because we want to have as many reasons to take action as possible, as many reasons to move forwards as possible, and to have as few reasons to stay the same, to walk away, to give up as possible. So as you're watching this or listening to this, maybe just right now, whilst you're driving or whatever you're doing, have a think about what some of your cookies would be in your cookie jar. Some of the things that you've overcome in life, some of the major challenges in your personal life or in your business, or maybe you've done a physical challenge, maybe you've done a Kokoda, or maybe you've done a crazy mountain climb, or maybe you've had a near-death experience and you had to save yourself. Whatever it might be, I want you to think about some of those things, because when we're scared, it's very difficult for us to think rationally or look for reasons to do the scary thing. But if you already have this kind of habit of looking back on the things that you have done, the things you've accomplished, even though you were afraid, if you have that habit, then next time you're afraid as well, you're going to automatically reach for one of those cookies in your cookie jar. You're going to automatically think about the things that you've already done, the things that already prove to you that you can do this next thing, and you can move your life forwards, and you can be a better father for your kids, a better partner for your woman, a better friend for the other people in your life, and a better son or brother for your family members. So think about those cookies in your cookie jar, my man. Maybe even write them down. Maybe have a little brainstorm and see what comes up for you. And if you don't have anything, that's okay. All right. This is where you're starting from. We all got to start from zero, man. That is where this happens. Do something then. Find out what are those things that scare you. What are those things that create anxiety, or perhaps make your insecurities show up. Think of any of those things that perhaps are like that, but you also kind of want to be good at. You also want to have an experience of. Think of those things and then have a look and see what you can do about challenging yourself in that area of your life, whether it's a physical challenge for your fitness or your health, or whether it's a mental challenge with having, maybe some conversations with other people, or whether it's a challenge in your business or your career, whatever it might be. Do something to start taking those steps. And look, at the end of the day, one of the things I would always recommend, because it is bloody hard, is find someone who can help you start to take those steps. So if you need a business coach, get a business coach. Ask, or maybe even ask around and see, who's good, who could be a good mentor for me in my industry. If it's perhaps social anxiety, then maybe you need to go and speak to someone who can help you with your social anxiety. Maybe it's a psychologist, or maybe it's someone who you know personally who's quite charismatic and can help you overcome some of those things. Maybe it's just about getting around more people and putting yourself in positions where you have to talk more. Maybe it's joining a group. If there's a physical thing that you want to improve, you don't like the way that your body looks and you hide away because of that, but you'd love to be able to just get out there and be yourself, then take an action on finding someone who can help you improve your physical appearance and your physical abilities so that you have confidence in those things. Obviously Unbreakable Man, if you're a bloke on the Gold Coast, is an amazing place to start. And that's exactly what I do for guys. It's not just help them get physically fit and strong, but then help expose you to some of these other challenges like climbing mountains and mountain biking and kayaking and all sorts of different avenues of your personal development so that you can become the kind of man that you want to be for yourself and the people around you. And the only way you can do that is by removing discomfort from your life. And the only way you can truly do that is by becoming so strong and so capable, both physically and mentally, that none of these things that currently bother you anymore. So with that said, boys, I hope you have an amazing day. If you can think of any cookies that you have in your cookie jar right now, comment down below. I'd love to see some of the cool, crazy things that you guys have been able to overcome in your lives and some of the amazing accomplishments that you've already got under your belt. So comment those things down below. And if you have any specific questions for me, my man, you can always flick me a message via email at mitch@unbreakableman.com.au, or you can get in touch with me on any of our social medias. All right, with that said, brother, have an amazing rest of your day, and I look forward to speaking to you again on the next episode. Cheers.
Hey mate, I hope you enjoyed that episode of the Unbreakable Man podcast. If you did, it would be absolutely fantastic if you could leave us a 5-star review, because that's going to help us get our message in front of more men who need to hear it. Now, if you have some feedback for me, I'd love to hear that too. Comment down below. And if you just need some mini doses of Unbreakable Man motivation throughout your week, then you can follow us across all social platforms. On Facebook, it's Unbreakable Man Challenge. On Instagram, it's Unbreakable Man _challenge. And on TikTok and YouTube, it's just Unbreakable Man. Your support would be absolutely invaluable. Now, last but not least, do not forget, men aren't born, they're built.